Author Tanya Steele is a global food industry leader in every aspect. She has initiated the Healthy Lunchtime Challenge and annual kids steak dinner at the White House with First Lady Michelle Obama. She is the former editorial director of Clean Plates, Epicurious.com, Gourmet Live, and Gourmet.com. She was an editor at Bon Appetit and Food and Wine and wrote for the New York Times for 4 years. She's done a lot. We could just do a whole show on everything she's done. We think she's awesome because she does amazing things in regards to real food, whole food for kids and for people. And this fall, Tanya is taking readers on a culinary tour of history in her new book. It's National Geographic Kids Food Fight, a mouth-watering history of who ate what and why through the ages. And it's trippy, man. It's super fun. We're excited to have her join us here on Big Blend Radio today. And I encourage you to go get the book. I'm saying for all ages, including adults. Go to natgeokids.com or go to kidsfoodfight.com. Amazon, all the online stores and stores, you'll be able to find it there. But I would hook up into the natgeokids.com or kidsfoodfight.com because there's fun games and quizzes and recipes on there too, just like in the book. Tanya, welcome. How are you?
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Very excited to be on.
Yeah, we are too. Now, okay, so do you remember the very first food fight you had? I'm just thinking you had one as a kid, right? Or an adult. You never know.
I must have. I think probably, honestly, my mother was a terrible cook. God love her. And I think I probably said, no, I don't want to eat that at 7 years old. That was probably my first one.
Yeah, that is, I know Nancy used to feed me in the shower, right? Or the bathtub, like a little high chef. Apparently, I played The Exorcist.
She was like... She just smashed everything around. I was like, man, I'm not doing this. I put her in the bathtub. It was
fun. Flat, you know. You have some interesting characters in your book that, things go splat and all kinds of interesting things they've eaten. What got you inspired to write this and really focus on kids? And because I think you're really getting kids excited about food, whereas oftentimes we look at the plate and go, ew, I don't want to eat the tomato, or not understand, the importance of food and even cooking your own food. So from that side, I think this is a very fun way of educating. But what was it for you that got you to say, hey, I'm going to do this?
It's always been a passion of mine to get kids into the kitchen to cook and eat healthy and to, kind of be the best that they can be. And that's kind of the whole message of the book. I want kids and adults to read and discover, the history of the world, of different cultures. We start from prehistoric man and go all the way through, Egypt and Rome and Greece and medieval and Renaissance and industrial and American and French revolutions and through the wars and all the way up to 2050. And I really wanted to inspire people, and particularly kids, to kind of discover what other kids and adults had eaten in the past, and to really be excited about cooking and eating healthfully and just being strong and healthy and the best absolute people they could be.
I love it. And you also looked at, what happens if we colonize Mars?
Yes. That's right. I spent 3 years researching and writing for the book, and the Mars chapter was so interesting. There's so much research going on and so many great new inventions like the 3D printer that's already making food and heat-sensitive clothing and, all of this crazy stuff that's happening. And I feel like just, in a few decades, the world's going to be a different place. But the one thing I wanted to emphasize in every chapter, and including that one, is there will never be a replacement for kind of getting together around the family table and, sharing how your day was and making memories and good times and passing down, signature recipes that are part of your heritage. So I hope that even in 2050, we're doing that.
I do too. If we're all going to gather around the printer, that it's still bizarre to think about that. It's really odd, but we are in this different world now, and I think the more we're attached to AI and printers, 3D printers, and phones, and all of the stuff that we have, I think that sitting around the table together is going to become even more important and more meaningful. I think that's where it is, and what I like is, that you have these recipes, and some of them are very traditional and recipes for kids to try out, and some of them they can do on their own. Some you have to call an adult, and that gets them involved. I think kids being able to create and cook, it opens up their brain to new things, new ideas, and an appreciation for food.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And every recipe that's in the book, there are 30 of them, all of which are inspired by eras and are authentic, but just adapted for kind of modern tastes and healthy, made healthier. They're all tested by kids. And so I made sure that every recipe that went in the book was something that kids really did like to cook and to eat. So that's really important, because there's no point in, putting together some recipes and getting kids all excited and then give them recipes they're not going to want to make.
Yeah, no kidding.
I know, right?
That could go the other way real fast.
But there's so much fun things in there. I love the quizzes. Nancy was sitting here quizzing me, and I was doing okay. Doing okay. I just like, there's things that I'm like, oh, I never thought of this, But there's some really fun trivia, and I think we all love that. But one thing you covered that I never even thought of, like, what was the first restaurant in? We cover a lot of history on our shows and magazine and destinations. And, it's really interesting. We're out in southern Arizona right now, and Tombstone, Arizona, Sherry Monahan, I think she wrote this book, the historic recipes of Tombstone. And it used to be this mining camp, but because of the railroads, they were eating what everybody in La-di-da, San Francisco was doing, and this is in the 1800s. Yeah. So they were having oysters and all these things in this tented camp in Tombstone. And we were like, well, how did that happen, right? So I got into that, like, so there were, food and restaurants and things, but I didn't think about where you were going of, hey, who opened the first restaurant? And so this is interesting because it was a shopkeeper, right?
That's right. It was a shopkeeper in Paris, and I think it was 1765. And he, the word restaurant really meant a restorative broth that people would drink and eat to kind of gain their health back. And enterprising shopkeeper thought, why don't I offer something with this that you can choose from, and you can actually sit at a different table from a stranger, which until that point, you went into an inn or a tavern, you sat at a table with a stranger and you were fed whatever the kitchen had, and that was usually leftovers. So this was kind of a revolutionary idea that you could actually choose from 2 or 3 different things, sit at a table with your friends and not have to talk to strangers and be served. So it was a really kind of shocking innovation.
Wow.
I know. It's just,
that's funny.
I know, because we take restaurants for granted in a way. It's part of our life, and there's that balance. Some of us need to, remember that we need to learn how to cook. And that's the thing. Where do you think that schools can, use this book and getting kids for some of the projects and the quizzes and even maybe cooking? Because sometimes we see these kinds of things like, how to cook, how to sew, how to, actually learn how to budget and money and even the art. Some of that goes out of school curriculums. Do you see your book being helpful in a way of helping, so maybe even after school programs for kids?
Absolutely. And in fact, I'm married to a high school history teacher, and I have 2 sons, and I really wrote the book thinking that this is like a perfect book for libraries and school libraries, and because it intertwines world history and cultural history with food history. And I think it's a great way to teach, to get kids into the excitement of learning about history and who Galileo was and why we need to know who Gutenberg was and what Martin Luther did and why Michelangelo was so incredible. You can do it through the food. So that's one of the things that most excites me about the book.
See, it's like Anthony Bourdain, how he showed us the world through food. This is for kids, though. This is the kids' version.
But without the tattoos, yeah.
Yeah. I know, really. Yeah, there were some parts in there that maybe not. But
right.
There was the other thing, too, that was interesting, because you think about the wheel, and we think of wheel as transport, but it was actually part of making clay pots, which now we think of clay pots as decorative, but back in the day, even if you look at, go back to Southwestern pottery, Native American pottery here, where we are, we look at it and go, there's form and function. At the same time, it's art and it's part of a language. I mean, when somebody makes something, the meaning is so huge. And this is interesting with the wheel and clay pots, because the clay pots were important.
Exactly. So the wheel was invented to make clay pots, and the Egyptians were the first to start using clay pots and using them as jars and vessels for olive oil, which was, a critical ingredient in wine and everything else, honey. And in fact, King Tut, when his tomb was discovered in the early 1900s, there were hundreds of baskets and clay pots in there, filled still with food from thousands of years ago. So
Wow.
clay pots have played an integral, part in human history.
It's amazing.
Wow.
It's amazing.
Think of putting all that food in there, like it was for your journey.
Yeah,
That's right. That's what it was for.
Yeah. I never realized, just over some of the interviews and research we've done, I didn't realize how much rum and beer was like this thing that was what was on most of the ships, because it was,
That's right.
Instead of the water, like the water was so bad.
Yes, it was. Exactly. It was safe to drink. I actually don't touch upon that kind of stuff because I don't want kids to then think, oh, I'm going to drink beer. That's always safe to drink. So I never actually speak about that one thing. That's one thing I kept out of the book.
Yeah, but you did talk about yucky habits of yore. When you're doing the research, what shocked you the most that you may not have learned about?
Wow, there's a lot of yucky stuff that has happened in the past, but I think that urine plays a larger part than I had envisioned. Urine was used to wash togas in ancient Greece. Urine was used to help fire up plates in Rome. So they would literally use urine and paint together and then fire them to make plates. So that's kind of weird. Sheep poop was a very, very popular way to get a fire. So there's lots of stuff like that. The kids are going to be like, ew, that's so fun.
Ew, but cool, dude.
Exactly.
In Africa, they use, the dung, whatever kind they could find, really, to make floors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they pounded it, and it's got polish. That's what always amazed me, because we've been in some African huts, and the floors are shiny.
Yeah.
You're like,
amazing.
How'd you do that?
I know, but then at the same time, you could use cow chips or whatever for, using it as fuel. And that's the interesting thing too. When you think about, ancient cultures and recipes passed down through the years, that's something I remember as a young kid. We were living in South Africa, and we were doing a tour for 3 years, traveling all over and meeting people and living in different homes. It was a fundraising tour for the National Cancer Association with Nancy's Art. And we ended up living on farms, and we call them plazas, old farms. And I learned how to cook on a wood-burning stove, and I thought this was the coolest thing.
Wow.
And all these
it was cool.
just really, families that still, lived in the small towns, and they weren't so split up like we are nowadays. How, someone's born somewhere, do you still stay in the same town? Half the time not. Families are spread out. It's a little different there. And I started keeping like a cookbook. I started gathering all these traditional recipes, and they were mostly Dutch. And it was really interesting to me. And I, as a young girl, going, wow, like going from, an electric burner or a gas burner to now you're going to actually use a wood-burning stove. That was super cool. And I think, if kids can go to places where they can see those old ways of doing things, and then also understand that, this is where this recipe came down from, and maybe go to their families and get some of the recipes from their past, maybe interview their grandparents for that.
Absolutely. And isn't that a beautiful thing to do? Yeah. I mean, that's something I really have encouraged in everything that I've done with kids, is to really celebrate and embrace your heritage and the family that you're from, and to really capture that in the food that you eat.
Mm-hmm. Now, what's up with the moray eels? I have to bring this up because but we're talking about like you that means you're really going in. You're not just. I mean, that's a different fishing technique to get moray eels.
Yes. That's right. Moray eels were extremely popular, especially in the ancient Rome. And I think Julius Caesar actually gave 20,000 of them at a meal. I mean, they are just wildly kind of the signature of that time. So who knew?
I mean, think of catching all those.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I know.
They're a little bit on the feisty side.
I know. It's no, I think it's from snorkeling with them.
They're kind of aggressive. We've been snorkeling, and you see them there, and then they instead of them like hiding from you, they kind of jump out at you.
Yeah.
Like
wow.
they do is like a little attack thing, and you're like, oh
no. I stay away from eels. I got nailed by one in a fresh river thing. Yeah, like yeah. Mm-hmm. It's not even a bite. It's like a
Yeah,
suction. Like it just sucked on. It like it.
did.
Yep.
It had teeth marks.
Yep. It was quite crazy. But anyway, I don't want to freak people out on that. But there's just so many bizarre and cool things. And one of the coolest things I think about going through Food Fight is that you put this timeline of what was going on at that time frame, but also all the utensils and how that changes. And it to me, you put it into perspective of what we were using. When does Tupperware come into play? It's kind of like going into a museum. It is like it's like going through a fun museum in your book. Like if we could go.
Oh, thank you.
Wouldn't it be cool to have a museum just like
a food museum?
Yes.
Yeah, each chapter like a new exhibit. Like I'd love to see that.
Yes. That would be so cool.
Fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, that's hopefully what I tried to do within the pages of a book. But yeah, that would be amazing.
Yeah, because I never thought of it in that way, really, with how you laid it out. I'm using this book for research. I don't care how old I am. But that is amazing when you look at how we've changed. And now you even look at how TV, you have your 1 a.m. shopping sprees for different gadgets you can use in the kitchen. And then you go way back when to what we were using, to cook and to, gather food and things. But that's bizarre.
Yeah, absolutely. And amazing that even, pasta machines were kind of in Roman times. I mean, 2,000 years ago, they were making pasta machines and using tongs and things like that. And the Greeks using portable grills. And I mean, yeah, a mortar and pestle, is 20,000 years old. So it's amazing.
Yeah,
this is cool.
I like the quizzes, and you have a knack for putting really bizarre things in the quiz, so I can hear kids going, ew, and that keeps them interested. So I understand why you did that, but I'm thinking, what do you think giraffe toenails taste like? Ew.
Yeah, I tried to be as silly as possible just to keep kids wanting to take the quizzes. So that way they would really want to kind of remember what they just read.
Yeah. No, it's good. It's clever.
Okay. I've got one more question, but one before that. So I have to bring up M&M because I had no clue. Tell people the story of M&M because this is crazy. It's different.
That's right. It is crazy. Well, I don't know. A certain generation, my generation for sure, will remember the M&M slogan, which was "Melts in your mouth, not in your hands," and that is because they actually created it in during one of the world wars to provide soldiers to have an energy snack and a sugar, rush, and something that's actually sweet and lovely to have on the front lines. But they created it so that it wouldn't melt while it was being transported and in some foxhole somewhere, so that it would actually just melt in your mouth and not in your hand. So that is one of the super cool facts that we found out.
You see, that's why it's in trail mix. Yeah. That's why it's in trail mix.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. But you know what? I have never purchased trail mix with M&Ms in there because I never realized that that's the story. Like I didn't know. Now I can have trail mix with chocolate. We're in the desert right now. Things melt. Things melt. Okay, so the other question is, if you're going to have a dinner party, okay, everybody you've written about in your book. So 3 people in your book. I know. Think about it. It could be Julius Caesar. If you're going to have a dinner party with 3 people that you could invite from the book, who would it be? What's on the menu, and why are you inviting them? Because you obviously want to talk to them about something.
Oh my God, that's an amazing, amazing question. Well, amazing question. And I think just off the top of my head, I think it would be fascinating to have Cleopatra, Julius Caesar, and Mark Antony, those 3, because they have this lovers triangle, and I would just be fascinated by all the gossip.
Yeah. I'll be the person pouring wine.
Exactly. We'll just listen in and hear. Fascinating. And then we could have wine and hummus and pita, olives. Oh my goodness, it would be amazing. So what a perfect meal that would be.
Oh my gosh, I like this.
Enough wine, you'll find out what's really going on.
I know.
Exactly.
I want to know if she really got bitten by an asp.
Apparently. Yes, I think apparently she did, although she did poison herself as well, I think, to make sure that she was going.
Women like to poison people. including themselves, unfortunately. But yeah, not really. But you know what I mean. Anyway, this is a kids show. We'll be nice. But it's a wonderful book, and we really appreciate you joining us. We appreciate all the work you've done. So what's next? Are you going to write another book?
Gosh, I don't know.
This was a big one.
Yeah. It was a big one, but there's so much I left out, so I would love to do another one at some point.
This would be cool. And the illustrations are amazing. Did you have a bunch of different people working with you on that?
Photos are amazing.
The fantastic, Nat Geo, they did an amazing job illustrating it. They were just brilliant. So I'm so grateful to them.
Yeah, and I love all the recipes online too, and in the book. And there's just, what I love about Nat Geo Kids is that they make this interactive experience. You have a book, but there's things to follow up with, It's just this connective experience between everything where you can go online and read, and they just do an amazing, amazing job. So, man, that's got to be fun to work with them too. It's so cool.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Yeah.
Everyone, again, the book by Tanya Steele is National Geographic Kids Food Fight, a mouth-watering history of who ate what and why through the ages. Again, Amazon, all those great places you can go get it. But go to their website, natgeokids.com and kidsfoodfight.com. And we want to thank our sponsor for this segment. Perfect sponsor. You can't get better than this. It is Family History Expos. They are dedicated to helping you trace your family history. They have online classes, online expos, books, all kinds of guides on genealogy. Just go to familyhistoryexpos.com. And they're into recipes too, family history recipes. So there you go. And we got a special song for Tanya because, we're talking about how wheels were made and then, people cooking in caves. This song is called I Made Fire. Hey girl, how'd you like your buffalo? So I Made Fire from our friends, the Tallman Group out of Southern California. Now there's a food thing to this, and this is off of their first album together. Tanya, you like this? Every month they get together on a Tuesday every month at Jimmy, the Muffin Man's house, and he cooks the other 5 Tallmen dinner every time, but they have a songwriting challenge. Wow. And so once a year, they take their songs and they put an album together. One of them is called Feast. Go figure. But hopefully one day we'll get to their place and have dinner with one of their songwriting challenges. But food is always involved. And here it is. I Made Fire. You can keep up with the Tallmen. Go to tallmengroup.weebly.com. Thanks so much for joining us, Tanya.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Good to talk to you.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Here it is. I Made Fire.
You can wait for a lightning strike to set that tree ablaze, and you can freeze till the sun comes up, but I ain't living that way. Party in my cave, I made fire, casting animal shadows and having fun. Party in my cave, hey girl, how do you like your buffalo done? I made fire, party in my cave. Yes, I know it's dangerous, already burned both knees, but that's the price, I'll pay it twice. 'Cause cave girls seem to like me. Party in my cave, I made fire. We're casting animal shadows and having fun. Party in my cave, hey girl, how do you like your buffalo done? I made fire, party in my cave. Breaking out the seed pod shakers, banging on a hollow log. Girl, you got some fine maracas, let's shake them all night long. Party in my cave, I made fire. We're casting animal shadows and eating some. Party in my cave. Hey girl, how do you like your buffalo now?